Good morning. My name is Kate Remus. I'm excited to be joined this morning by a robust panel of researchers from the university to a discussion called Aspiring to Impact, Getting Your Best Ideas into the World. Carmen and some of our amazing backstage team are going to help us guide through the slides, and then we'll jump into a discussion. So just as means of introduction, my name is Kate Remus. I'm a mentor in residence at the University of Michigan Venture Center and your moderator for today's conversation. Before we get started, I just wanted to do a few housekeeping updates and reminders. First, this session is being recorded, and that's because all of you who've registered and those who couldn't join us but want to watch afterwards will receive a link to be able to go back and watch the presentation again or share it with your colleagues. Secondly, a number of you sent us questions as part of your registration, and we've tabulated those, and I'm going to be using them as we talk to our panelists today. But we also have a Q&A function, so if you have a question as we go through this conversation, please don't hesitate to pop it into the Q&A. And again, our marvelous team of folks backstage will help me collect those and pose them to our team. We'll get to as many of those as we can. So this discussion is happening as part of a week-long celebration of innovation and invention across the University of Michigan, our 20th annual, I'm jumping the gun here, Mark, Celebrate Invention. And although we can't be together at the League, I'm thrilled to be joined by Daphne Watkins, Chinedum Okwudire, and Olivia Walch. Before we start a conversation and hear their stories, I just wanted to talk briefly about the inspiration for this panel. My goal for the next hour is that you not only walk away inspired by these colleagues' work and their journeys towards impact, but that you're also more aware and able to access the support and breadth of resources within the Office of Tech Transfer. We've deliberately chosen a team of researchers that represent the breadth of scholarship that the university has to offer. And although they and their companies are young, what you'll learn, and I think, is that they all have a history of collaborating with our office. And they'll tell you more about that as we go through the discussion. Innovation is a team sport, and translating research discoveries into the world and into products that change the lives of the people that we serve is an iterative process. So it's never too late to start exploring. Carmen, if you want to flip to the next slide, I want to give everybody just a preview of the genesis and how we got here. Why this panel and why these three entrepreneurs? What we wanted to do is bust down some myths. These are not the myths. These are what we want you to walk away with. It's never too early to start thinking about the market, who you're trying to help, what you're trying to do, how you're trying to change the world. And not all inventions are blockbuster products. So not all innovation and entrepreneurship looks alike. Spoiler alert, they're not all blockbuster healthcare applications or drug discoveries. As you may have heard earlier at our 9 a.m. presentation with Drew Bennett, we have projects that look like open source software releases, nonprofit entities, public-private partnerships, licenses to big companies, and startup companies. So our office and the team of people at Tech Transfer support all that diversity. There is no typical path, and we work with everybody. The other thing I want you to walk away inspired from today is a desire to kind of learn and explore the breadth of resources and ways that Tech Transfer can support you. We love to learn about the amazing work that happens across campus and the discoveries that happen in your labs and departments. And that's what drives us to do our job. We're here to help. So next slide, who's this we I keep talking about? We is the Office of Tech Transfer. It's the team of people that I think has the best job on campus. Our mission is to be inspired to redefine how world-class university research can fuel a region and solve the world's greatest challenges. It's why we all got into these disciplines in academia, is to help translate discoveries into real impact. Next slide. So that team of people does a number of different important roles. We are licensing and venture center colleagues that support and manage all University of Michigan intellectual property from discovery through to impact. We support early stage efforts to assess and explore markets. We collaborate with faculty and staff to develop and protect their inventions. And we help build partnerships, companies, or other models to help unleash these innovations to drive impact and support the world. So without further delay, what I'd like to do is introduce our panelists for today. Next slide. We are joined by Daphne Watkins of YB Men in the School of Social Work. Next slide. Olivia Walch of Arcascope, who studied in neurology and mathematics, and Chinedum Okwudire from Ulendo and the Department of Mechanical Engineering. So with that, I will invite them all to share their video and unmute, but one by one. I should pause because in the interest of good Zoom management, and we're all new to this, I think what I'll do is direct questions individually at each of you. But please interject, unmute if you have additional thoughts or want to build on a colleague's point. This is better if it's a robust discussion. Daphne, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell us about your research yourself and your project YB Men?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Daphne Watkins. I'm a professor in the School of Social Work and also the director of our Curtis Center, which is a Center for Health Equity Research and Training at the School of Social Work. I've been at the university for about 14 years now, and my research is on Black men's mental health, masculinity, and social support. And so the invention, or the work that I do that's specifically related to tech transfer, is an intervention that I created, gosh, I guess maybe 7 or 8 years ago now. It's called the Young Black Men, Masculinities, and Mental Health Project, or YB Men for short. And the whole purpose for YB Men is to improve mental health, to encourage more progressive definitions of masculinity or manhood, and to increase social support among young Black men ages 18 to 30.
Awesome.
So okay. I was going to say, did you want me to say something else? Or?
That's brilliant.
Perfect.
That's brilliant. Okay. Chi, can you talk a little bit, tell us about Ulendo and your work and research at U of M?
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Chinedum Okwudire, and I go by Chi for short. And actually, there's an OTT story to that. There's a tech transfer story to that, but I'll leave that for another day. But anyway, I'm an associate professor in mechanical engineering. I also serve as associate chair in integrated systems and design. And my research is in manufacturing automation. And so I work on all kinds of manufacturing machines, but lately I've been focused on 3D printers and additive manufacturing, which many of you might know is really an area that is growing rapidly. And so Ulendo is a software product that we've developed. It came out of research in my lab. About 5 years ago it started, but then we've been working on it in terms of the commercial direction for about 3 years now. And it's a software application that improves the speed of 3D printers, because 3D printers suffer from, even though they have a lot of potential, they struggle because they kind of take a long time to get parts made. And so we came up with this software product that helps to compensate the vibration of 3D printers, allows you to push them faster and while still keeping high quality of the parts made. And so we actually did it more as an undergrad project. I had no aspirations to bring this to market. But then we put out a YouTube video showing the results we got, and it went viral. And so that's where we saw that there was really a pain point there. And tech transfer came to me and said, hey, there's something here. Do you want to look at it? And one thing led to another, and I'll be happy to discuss that. But that's me. Thank you very much.
I love that. And I'm going to come back to that YouTube customer discovery moment, because it's one of my favorite aha lightning bolts that I've heard of. Olivia, do you want to tell us about what is Arcascope and what was your journey into building a company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Olivia. Up until a month ago, I was a postdoc at the University of Michigan. Before that, I was a grad student in the math department. I got my PhD in applied math. In 2014, I made an app as part of my PhD work to tell people how they should expose themselves to light to get over jet lag faster. So jet lag is caused by your body's internal clock getting screwed up. It gets light when it doesn't expect it. And if you get light at certain times as opposed to others, you can speed up the process of adjusting. And I had kind of a customer discovery, like, whoa moment when that app got a lot of attention. Sort of more than as a grad student, I was prepared. And I sort of saw that to have a future for this app and product, it needed to be housed in a company. So I spent the next 4 years working on for sort of getting more experimental evidence that the app was doing what I wanted it to do, grants to commercialize the technology. And as of like August, I am full-time CEO at Arcascope, which is the name of my company. So it's been an exciting journey, and I am very happy to talk about it here.
Fabulous, thank you. So as I met with each of you to prepare for today, I was struck and inspired by the diversity of the ways that you found us and the ways that you started thinking about research becoming a product or something that could live beyond your labs and your teams. So I'd love to have you each tell a little bit of that origin story. And Chi, I would love to start with that YouTube moment, because as I understand it, you had a mentor and colleague that helped you understand that entrepreneurship was an interesting path, but it was only that customer market feedback that caused from going viral to bring you into the fold. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, with pleasure. Well, so I always knew about the Office of Tech Transfer. I very early, during when I came into the university as an assistant professor, I had, or I still have a colleague, Shoria Alter, who has been very active in the entrepreneurial space. And so he always told me about, the need to patent ideas and that there was an office that was very supportive. And so as ideas would come out of my lab, I would also always patent them. But, as an assistant professor, I was a little more focused on, getting tenure, the kind of things that assistant professors focus on. And along comes this project that turns into an undergrad project that turns into a YouTube video that I just mentioned. And again, I never really thought, that was not something I was really thinking of from a commercialization point of view until we put out a YouTube video and, had people emailing me from all over the world saying, hey, you know what? You've really hit a pain point. We feel this, we would love to have this software product on our printers. And again, I had just gotten tenure at the time, that was 2017, and I was just kind of having PTSD. I was like, I'm not ready to start this. Especially, I talked about my friend, Shoria Alter, and I saw how difficult it is to start a company. And so I wasn't really thrilled by the idea of kind of getting back into the grinder. But then along came Dick Greeley and Chuck Cole from Office of Tech Transfer, smiling, full of excitement, and told me about how this is an opportunity that I want to seize. And I told them the same thing, that, I'm not thinking of doing this now because I just came through tenure process and I have a young family and all that. And they said, no problem, we're here to support. And I can tell you, to make the long story short, they've been there for me and they've added more to the team, like, Don Manfredi and other people from Tech Transfer have been there. And so I'm happy I took the plunge because I feel like the support they promised, they kept to it. And so that's why we've kept on going. And my family is still together and I'm still happy. So I think I'm fine.
That's awesome. Daphne, can you talk about how that compares to your journey with YBMN and a little bit about some of the tools like FastPace that helped you on that just customer discovery or market validation journey?
Sure. So the first iteration of YBMN occurred in 2014. And I remember the moment sitting in my car in the parking lot of a university that we tested the project with, having sort of that, oh my goodness, I think I built a mousetrap that actually works. I had sort of that mousetrap moment, and it was very emotional. I was overwhelmed with excitement. And, of course, came back to campus, and in the following weeks, very much like Chi, Tech Transfer reached out to me. And so this is 2014, pilot work had been done, it was successful, and I was completely terrified at the idea of scaling up at that point, and I just felt like I wasn't ready. I needed to incubate my idea. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about tech transfer was I was never rushed. I was never pushed or forced or, friendly nudged or anything. I just really appreciated being able to work on my own time, which, as she has alluded to already, it's not always the case in academia. You have these milestones you have to meet, tenure, promotion, annual review. But I just loved how tech transfer, the folks there are just so supportive and just saying, we're here when you're ready. And so that was in 2014. And as you mentioned, Kate, I did participate, and I think it was the fall 2017 version of Fast Pace. So I was in that cohort. And, since 2014, pretty much between 2014 and 2017, we've been doing iterations of the YB Men project across college campuses. And I mean, tons of success. People were excited about it. We're getting emails, and we're having that problem that you want to have where people are excited and they want it, but you don't know if you can actually deliver it. You don't have the capacity to expand. And so what that fast-paced program did for me was it really taught me that inventions are so much more than what I thought they were. They're not like a piece of equipment, or they don't have to be all in the biomedical sciences. And it really it was my aha moment that what I have is actually considered an invention. And so I think, Kate, what you're speaking about specifically is the conversation we had about fast pace, where I told you I entered the group, I was a part of the cohort, and I think they encouraged teams. And so I think everybody else in there had a team member, and I was by myself. And it was mainly because like 99% of my team members at that time were students. And I just was still just trying to figure out what I wanted. And there was that little bit of guilt that I don't want to bring a student into this with me because I don't even know what I'm getting into yet, right? There's that terror, there's that fear. But wow, to go through the customer discovery process for those 4 weeks was just unimaginable. It was just eye-opening to really get a sense for the fact that what I have is something that people want, and that even though I'm trained as a researcher, I'm trained as a scientist, there is something there that's marketable. And so for me, it was a game changer for me. I think it was then in 2017 where I said, okay, we have to do something with this. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting to me because everybody has mentioned similar themes of this. Kind of started as this small kernel. Chia, you and I talked about planting seeds that don't pay off for a while. And that there's also a fear that's very natural and human of the unknown. And this is a language system I don't know, and this is a process I don't know. And so, Olivia, I'd love to have you talk a little bit about, as I understand it, when you met Tech Transfer, you were a grad student trying to put a free piece of software on the App Store. And I loved your description of how easy an invention disclosure was. So if you want to give that compare and contrast, I don't want to steal your thunder, but it made me laugh.
Yeah, no, it's way easier than I thought it would be. That's the punchline. But flashing back 6 years ago, 2014, I'm a clueless grad student. I don't know what tech transfer is, but my PhD advisor knows that tech transfer exists, knows that invention reports exist, and suggests putting in an invention report for the schedules we developed and the app that I'd made, which sounded like work. It sounded like one of those things where I was gonna have to write 5 pages and have to dig all these citations in there and probably have to enter in a lot of different text fields, information that could be pulled from somewhere else. And instead it was a couple paragraphs, it could fit in an email. I sent a draft in an email to my advisor to look at, which was amazing. That's almost never how it works out. Usually things are twice the headache you expect them to be. So that was a very gratifying thing to discover. But also sort of great about that period of my life is I had never put anything on the App Store before, or at least nothing I was super proud of. I had a few like jokey apps that were out there, but this was my first grown-up app. And I also was like sort of new to attention and getting lots of emails. And I think really having Tech Transfer, and specifically Jess at Tech Transfer, to kind of hold my hand during that process was a huge comfort to me. It's something that was sort of outside of the job description, but like much appreciated on my end.
That's fantastic. Chi, can you talk a little bit about the team of people that helped you start to map out what it was going to take to bring you, Lindo, from the lab into the product world? I'm going to talk in a bit about some of the challenges of building a company and finding talent, but I'm more interested in that bridging the product, some of the tools and resources within Tech Transfer that you tapped into.
Yeah, well, it's been a lot. Well, it started with Chuck and Dick coming to me and telling me, hey, you want to, we'll support, Tech Transfer will support. And so we started taking one step at a time. Now, because we had demands coming from people, we already had a company that said we wanted to put this on our, they wanted to put our software on their printer. And so we already started working with them, and Tech Transfer was there for me through the process. One challenge we had, and it's nice to talk about open source, we, while our software and the process is patented, the market we're trying to break into operates on open source software. And so it was really a challenge working with this company that says, yeah, we are all about open source, and then you're coming to us with this closed source thing, but then, we want to make sure that it can have a business case. And so Tech Transfer had some experts who were experts in open source software that worked with us and figured out a way to package our software such that we could satisfy the open source demands that were coming from the industry, but still protect some of the, the intellectual and the commercialized, the portions that could be commercialized that had value. And so that was something that right from the get-go was very helpful. And then as we build the team, trying to raise funds, and so in internal funds, Tech Transfer was there to help us to raise funds through the MEDC programs. They have a couple of programs. One of them is the advanced funds. And then we also had some funds from MTRAC. And then whenever we needed some funds or anything, Tech Transfer will always point us. There was all these pockets of money I don't know about. And, Don will say, well, I'm just going to talk to them and they'll tell us, and so there's all these little pockets of money that we're able to get us to take it from a lab prototype to a prototype that was ready for testing. And so we got to a place where we could do beta testing on commercial machines.
Fantastic. And I like, I see some of the participants are from some of our partner programs. So I mentioned all of this is a team sport. We have the Coulter program, we have MTRAC, we have our partners at FFMI. There are lots of places to get teamwork and support, but one of the things we at least aspire to do as a team is to support entrepreneurs through that journey and help network them into places so that we can accelerate learning and get products out to the world faster. One of the themes of so first I want to do a quick housekeeping reminder for myself, because I've seen some people bounce in. There is a Q&A function. And so if anybody has questions for our panelists, I wish we all were in person and you could raise your hand, but there is a digital way to do that down there. Please don't hesitate. But some of the questions that came in before were kind of, what are the biggest challenges? What are the things that were hard? Because oftentimes we celebrate the successes and we don't talk about those things that were struggles and a grind and difficult. And so Daphne, if you would, I'd love to have you talk about some of those points along your journey where you were not sure that this was going to work out, or you kind of had reached a point where you needed something more.
Sure. It's so funny. My knee-jerk reaction to your question was, what were some of the challenges or the hangups? I think more than anything, it was me. it was my just fear and concern, and that just not knowing what I was getting myself into, I think, that really held me back at the very beginning. Despite the fact that Tech Transfer was amazing and continues to be amazing with my particular intervention, or with my intervention, which is also an invention, I found that feeling like I needed to enter the meeting with stuff ready to go was something that I think I really had a problem with early on. Instead of working alongside the folks at Tech Transfer to help me sort of co-create things, I think was something that and maybe it was just a misunderstanding, maybe it was my own anxiety or just lack of knowledge, but I sort of felt a little hung up along the way, or okay, I'm meeting with Hannah, I'm meeting with Drew, I'm meeting with Jess, okay, let me do my homework and get things ready, and not really knowing in what direction I should go with those things, and then meeting with them and them just sort of calming my anxiety and saying, you don't have to be ready for us, let's just talk this through. We're going to help you. And so that was a challenge for me early on. I mean, again, being trained as a social scientist, I just was unsure about what an invention looks like in the social sciences, because what I've created is a curriculum essentially that's delivered via social media. And I just needed a lot of education and patience and grace from everyone about being able to actually name this as something special and something that people would want to have access to.
Awesome. That's great self-reflection. It's part of how we all learn, right? Olivia, I saw you nodding too, and I know this has been a journey because you have lots of different applications and markets for your product. Can you talk about some of the struggles on your path?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the first one at the very beginning, the thing that made me think, okay, this has to leave the university, was just people's emails in response to the app. Because I was getting like 100 a day, and like I'd wake up in the morning and there'd be like, it was a jet lag app, so it was like all time zones. People were emailing me, and I kind of got bummed out. I was like, I can't keep up with these. They don't like the app. They don't know where the buttons are. But the fact that I after the initial wave of interest died down, I was like, well, I still want to do this. And that was a pretty good sign that there's something to this idea, and I actually kind of like this. And in terms of since then, I've failed so many times. There have been so many times I've been in the room with people trying to convince them to get me money, and I'm like, all right, I think that went really well. And then like 24 hours later, they're like, no thanks. But every single time I've come out learning more, and it's been quite an improvement. So very, very first time, around 2015, I was talking to some people and they're like, oh, this is very interesting, but what is your business plan? Is it, and then wingdings came out of their mouth. I had no idea what they were talking about. They were saying B2B or B2C, but I had no clue what that meant. And I, after that, learned that. And I learned a lot more through programs that Tech Transfer connected me to. I told Kate this yesterday, I don't have an MBA. I'm not close to an MBA, but I'm so much better versed in the language you might get from an MBA thanks to the programs that Tech Transfer's had. And even though there's been lots of failures, I just got a $1.6 million grant that I'm pretty excited about. And thank you, friends. Thank you. But it was only made possible by failing so many times. I was standing on the corpses of all my past dreams and able to reach higher.
We call that building a path. It's not corpses.
I said that, I was like, oh no. Analogy, not my best.
Quite yet to Halloween time frame. So some of the questions that have come in since I prompted folks were about how do you balance an academic career and a lab and your teaching and research responsibilities with trying to push forward a product, and are those in tension and how do they work together? And Chi, I'd love to hear from you and Yolendo about how you've kind of managed that balance, and then also what kind of response or reactions you've gotten from colleagues as they learn more about your work.
Yeah, well, let me start with the second part of your question first. I would say in mechanical engineering, and I would dare say the whole of College of Engineering, but I'm not sure. But let me speak for my department, which is mechanical engineering. The response is quite positive. It seems like something that is highly encouraged. We have a lot of success stories in mechanical engineering, and even in our annual review and tenure promotion packages, they encourage us to write what we are doing about transferring our research to industry. and including tech transfer. So I'll say from that point of view, it's actually a positive. Now, going to the first part of your question, which is, the challenge of balancing everything. That's where I struggle the most. Post tenure, so many other responsibilities have piled on. I have an admin position, I have a teaching position, and my research is growing. And, I have young boys that are growing at home too. And so it just seems like I'm torn in all different directions. And the company itself, with the demand and everything, is very promising in terms of, where we're going. And so I quickly realized that I couldn't manage everything. And I definitely felt like I wasn't in a position at this point to take a leave of absence to build the company, 100%. And so what I've been looking for and we've figured out was we need someone to champion the company, and then I can support. And there, tech transfer has been very helpful. So number one, we have our mentor in residence, Don Manfredi, who meets with us and helps and everything. But then also to get someone to lead the company, I reached out to tech transfer, and we have the amazing Diane, whom I'm not even sure I've met yet, but I mean, I just feel so positive about her. She helped us to reach out to her contacts and get a few people who, were interested in kind of playing a leadership position in the company. And I mean, she knocked it out of the park. So we got someone who we're really happy with and who is beginning to take charge of the company. But secondly, we also realized that we needed someone to help with some of the technical aspects of the company. And so again, I reached out to Diane and I was like, yeah, the second time probably won't work, right? I mean, you can't be lucky twice. And again, she gave us, she sent someone, just one person that she was able to find. And it turns out that that person seems to be a perfect fit. So 2 times and 2 times have been successful. But again, the point I want to raise is that in that struggle I had with just finding the right people, tech transfer was also able to provide me access to personnel that have come in very handy in kind of helping me to reduce the workload.
Fantastic. Many of our colleagues, including the amazing Diane, are in the listening audience, and I'm so grateful. I feel very fortunate to be the one here talking to you all and standing on the shoulders of this amazing team. This is why we come to work. It's really heartening to hear. What I'd love, Daphne, for you to talk or speak to one of these other questions we got from the audience, because I think you've been at the institution long enough to see some of this change. The question is, how does the kind of support network and the culture around entrepreneurship and innovation and invention, how has that changed at U of M over these last years? And how has the institution supported you in this effort to push things out? Has that been easy or hard? Have you felt a tension in some of your other academic appointments, or has it been complementary to what you're doing in your kind of quote unquote day job?
Yeah, I definitely feel supported. I think because my work is focused pretty narrowly on Black men's mental health and well-being, I could have been met with some opposition, and certainly given the changing state of our country, I felt like the support has just grown more and more over the past few weeks and months. And so, yeah, I think that there have been changes. I think earlier on, people were a little bit concerned about how my particular program is so focused by race and gender. And people wondered, well, are you going to be successful with this? Is this, a particular group that we should focus on? But I think, the writing is on the wall that clearly there is something that needs to happen with this group. And the fact that there are researchers who are willing to dedicate resources and effort and manpower to this, I think is really important. So I think I've seen changes. They've been for the better, thankfully, but unfortunately, I think it's been more so because of what's happening in the world today.
Chi, you and I talked early on about how thinking about making this a product and starting a company while you were doing the tenure process just seemed untenable. You weren't willing to tackle both at the same time. But one thing that struck with me when we talked about what do you wish you'd known or what worked out was that you had kind of planted some seeds. So you didn't feel like you couldn't do both. And you felt like the process didn't of at least protecting something and starting to learn about the market didn't hold you back from tenure, but that you kind of sequence things. Can you talk about that arc in your academic career and the company?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I guess part of it was realizing how easy it is. I definitely agree with Olivia. Like I realized it wasn't that hard. But I realized it after I made a mistake. So I had the first invention that came out of our lab, and as thinking of publications, I went straight to publication, and I didn't do anything to protect it. And then I learned in hindsight when people were like, "This is really cool. Did you patent it?" I was like, "Yeah, no, not really, because I didn't file a provisional. I didn't, I just kind of went ahead and published it, and it was too late to protect it." And so, but that quickly showed me that the process was very easy. And so from that point onward, whenever I had something, before I sent it to a conference or whatever, I just called tech transfer. And within a couple of weeks, in fact, sometimes days, they get it protected and get the whole thing done. So it didn't stop my publications. It didn't slow down my publications. It just made it, I just had to take this extra step. And so I started doing that. And so whenever we had something, we'll protect it, file a provisional patent, and then publish. And so I think that ended up, like you said, kind of helping us to plant seeds, including the software that has turned into Ulendo. We also, at the time, filed a provisional patent for it. Again, not fully thinking that it would turn into something like this, but I'm so glad that we did that, because now it's protected, and so we have that kind of covered.
Fantastic, thank you. So another kind of category, at least, of questions that are coming in are about what would you wish you'd known? And I'm gonna start with you, Olivia, because you've made this jump or transition into a very active role. Like, you are CEO, you're hiring people, you've closed your first investment round in an SBIR phase 2. What are some of the biggest learnings that you've had, or things that you could tell yourself 2 years ago that would have really helped this journey?
I think you were going to have setbacks. Like the thing is, like, I did have setbacks, and I guess, like, I realized very quickly when they happened, I was like, oh, I guess these are going to happen. But maybe some more preparing for that. Just like, all right, like, you're going to talk to these people, you're going to talk to them for a really long time. You're going to think like, okay, there's something happening here, and then it might fall through, and that's okay. That's part of the way things work. And I think another thing I would kind of tell my past self is like it gets better in so many ways. So like, when I was a grad student, for instance, I felt like I had to do everything myself, and like I had to do all the work myself. And also I had this sort of academia mindset of like, I have to save money wherever I can. And so if there's like a software developer I could hire for something I could do myself, well, I should do it myself. And miraculously, not doing that has made my life better. Having my employee that I've had now for a couple weeks, he's amazing, and that's made my life better. Like, having somebody to talk to about this on a day-to-day basis from a commercial perspective, having a team. And so even though I was like, still like, I'm gonna do this, circa like 2017, I kind of think I would have appreciated future me coming down from the clouds and being like, it's gonna get even better than this. Grad student Olivia.
So Chi, I'm going to put you on deck. I should have done that with Daphne, but Daphne, I'm interested in your answer to that same question about what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in this last just year or two that might have made the process easier? Because we have a lot of people listening and watching that are in those shoes and get to benefit from some of the insights that you all have.
Yeah, so for me, it was that I can do it both, so that I can do it all, essentially. So I think because the first iteration of Why the Men happened in 2014, I received tenure in 2015 and was promoted to full in 2019. And so all along the way, I was thinking I should focus on tenure and promotion. I should focus on writing grants and getting my scholarship for YB strong, which possibly could have delayed the actual commercialization of it. And so looking back now, reflecting on the past few years, I could have done it both. I could have had it go to market a little bit sooner, but I felt like the tenure process was something that was familiar to me. So I almost wanted to conquer that first. So then in all my free time, right, have none free time, I could work on bringing my invention to market. Like Chi, I have a family, 2 small children. So I thought, oh, let me, get this tenure and promotion thing down. Let me get to full. And then I'm going to sit back and watch this invention happen and grow and be scaled and be worldwide. But looking back, I mean, I could have gotten the ball rolling with this stuff a little bit sooner, because it was a very iterative process. It was a reciprocal process between me writing grants for my program and getting data collected and writing papers. And it was happening anyway. And I guess I could have also been doing this along the way. So that's my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate it, because I think hearing that those things are so intertwined and can fuel and support one another, and that there's a team of people that are cheering you on and wanting to help and willing to, not push, but be there to support you, can be reassuring to people that have an aspiration to make sure that their ideas go live on and have big impact in the world, but aren't quite sure where to get started. Sometimes it's as simple as just picking up the phone and making that first invention disclosure, or coming to talk to the licensing person who deals with your department to try to build a relationship, because for us, at least, opening that door is the way that we can start to help projects. And I think this is me kind of on a soapbox talking to our attendees, but as I said, this is an iterative process and a team sport. And so, as Chi mentioned, sometimes there are inventions that don't get protected or don't have a big impact, but it's the learnings that you have that first iteration that make your scholarship and work the next time potentially even bigger and more impactful. So we love these long-term relationships. Chi, do you have any lessons learned or big struggles that you want to double down on?
Actually, I was just thinking when, just listening to my colleagues, I don't have any regrets. I don't have, I have lessons for sure. And I think a lot of that can be credited to working very closely with Tech Transfer from the beginning. Because again, I feel like we have a lot of experience, people like you and Don, working closely, and they quickly, kind of point where, things might be going wrong and all that. So I feel like just having that wealth of experience and expertise at our fingertips really saves us from a lot of pain. And so for that, I'm very grateful. There's some, well, I would say I don't have regrets about it, but it's definitely a lesson learned. So the initial stages of the company, or kind of taking the product from a lab scale prototype to commercial, I involved a lot of students. I think the professor in me just wants to see students, and you see the students and they're so bright eyed and everything, and it just makes you happy. They kind of feel like this is cool, we want to work on it. But, I quickly started realizing that there's a time when, they're 2 different things, and you have to sometimes kind of put I don't want to say adults because the students are adults, but I mean figuratively adults in the room. And so that's one thing I've learned, that students might not always be the best to take it. I'm glad I gave them the opportunity and we had a lot of fun, but I think now I'm kind of getting to the place where it's like, well, if you want to move this forward rapidly, you might have to really kind of get people who are steeped in this area. But another thing that Daphne said that I want to harp on is how complementary this can be with your research. So again, one story about this, this vibration compensation algorithm that turns into Ulendo was that I was trying to get funding for the research of it, right? So I started it out with my startup funds, and when that was drying up, I wanted to get some NSF funding, and the proposals kept on getting rejected. It's like people said, this can come to no good, it's kind of useless. But now, once the commercialization activities and the interest came, then all of a sudden I began to get grants on this, and so again, you can see that sometimes these activities help people to see, especially when you're kind of playing around the edges and things that people are not yet sure will make an impact, showing that people are interested in it, showing that there is interest out there could be very powerful in terms of supporting your research as well.
That's great insight. I really appreciate that. So we're kind of nearing the end, and I'd love to give you each a minute or two to just share some closing thoughts or anything else that you want to make sure we mention before we wrap up. So I think we'll start with Olivia, Daphne, and then Chi. Just anything that you want to make sure you say or share about your entrepreneurship and innovation journey, or your work with tech transfer and goals for the future.
So I'm going to use my time to say that if you're somebody who's considering transitioning out of academia into sort of full-time at a business like I have done, tech transfer was really supportive for me, and they let me take my time. Like, I graduated in 2016, and then they funded a postdoc for me so I could kind of keep doing research related to the project, wrap up things, like make sure I got some key publications done, and really spend 4 years in this transitioning mode. And so it's not like I just was like, see academia and then like cut the cord right away. It was a very slow process, but it was the right pace for me. And so you don't have to like make it a sudden transition. You can put your toe in the water and see if it's something you like, and then maybe go all the way in or take a step back. And then the second thing is that I'm hiring now. So if you're somebody who might be interested in a full stack developer position, specifically somebody who'd be interested in training for that, you don't have to have all the skills, let me know. Kate, can I put my email anywhere? I'll put it in the chat or something.
I was just going to say, just in between you and Daphne, one of the questions actually that has come in is, where can they go to learn more about your companies and your work and your research? So when we post this video, we're going to, actually, we're not quite done yet, Carmen, I'm sorry. When we post this video, we will make sure that there are links to your scholarship and work and your projects, because I think the world wants to know more, and that's brilliant. Olivia, I have a note that we're going to introduce you to the amazing Diane, because she's been lucky twice. She's actually just very good. So we will that's one of the things we do. We will get you linked up.
Excellent, thank you.
Of course. Daphne, any closing thoughts?
Well, first, I also want to be introduced to the amazing Diane. So don't leave me out of this. I am too looking for support. So make sure I'm connected to Diane as well. So I will use my time to simply say something that I really wish I had thought about at least a few years ago when this first started. This is my advice to people. Be open and fluid to your definition of an invention. And I think for myself, I focused so tightly on that word and what I thought it meant, and the movies I watched and the books I read and how I defined invention. And I realized that what I have is indeed an invention. And so if I have any advice, any encouraging words, if you have created something, you're on the brink of discovering something that is going to change the way people think or function or whatever it is in your particular market, 9 times out of 10, it's an invention. And so I just really appreciate being able to work with tech transfer over the past few years, and they've been able to help me redefine invention for myself. So thank you.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Chi?
Yeah, I just want to support what Daphne and Olivia have said. I think 2 words come to my mind when I think of tech transfer, and that's supportive and fun. I mean, supportive, we've been saying that all through, and I think that message is, everyone is saying it because it's just pure truth, right? But the fun part, it's just like in our meetings with Don and the team, I mean, it's just laughter. It's just, it just makes, I look forward to those meetings, and the same thing when I meet with Dick or Chuck. They're just people that you just want to hang out with. And so I feel like they make the journey fun. And so I really like that. And I think, I just want to encourage, I really like what Daphne is saying, because it really fully didn't occur to me until this panel, how tech transfer doesn't seem to pick winners or losers or say, you know what, this is the apple, and then this one, you know, it's just don't worry about. I never felt that. You know, I felt like everything you bring to them, they try to find the value and push you in there. And that's something I've never reflected on, right? I mean, it's not about, well, it's just gonna create $1 billion, then we're gonna put effort into it. It just seems like they want it to turn into impact. And whatever that impact means, we understand that every little thing matters in this world. And I feel like tech transfer is there to support. And it's something that I'm really grateful about. And I just actually realized through this discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's amazing because that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish with this. So you have made my job easier, and I'm grateful. So Carmen, if you want to go to our wrap-up slide, we've reached the end of our time this morning, and I am just so grateful. This is one of those places where Zoom fails, because I know that both myself, the colleagues, the audience, all want to be giving you a huge round of applause. You are the leaders and best. I'm so grateful for your openness and candor and help, willingness to lean back and share words of wisdom and advice with the community. I also want to give a huge round of applause and thanks to the backstage team, Abba, Carmen, Erica, Lisa, Mark, everyone who's backstage making this look easy. It's not. You make it easy, and I'm so deeply grateful. Finally, it's not too late to join the rest of this amazing week of Celebrate Invention. So I'm going to plug a couple of this afternoon's events. At noon, Osage Venture Partners is going to be presenting the basics of creating an early stage startup. So if you're someone that has technology or just thinks you might be on this journey in the next 5 or 10 years, it's a great presentation. And if you register, you'll also get a link to watch it later on if you can't join us live. And then both at 3 and 6 o'clock, Serena Glover is going to be doing a masterclass in angel investing. At 3 o'clock, how to attract angel investors and learn how to raise capital and funding for startups and new ideas. And then at 6 o'clock, how to become an angel investor. So links and registration details for all of those are at techtransfer.umich.edu. And thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.